Morning, everyone. My name is Palesa Shipalana, the Chief Sector Expert in the Presidency's DPME. Okay, my function in the main is to monitor the economy and infrastructure cluster of the South African government to ensure that we meet our objectives of the medium-term strategic framework. In short, we call it MTSF. The MTSF is a promissory document that each government administration signs to commit to the people of South Africa to say this is what they will achieve from day one of them assuming office. The sixth administration reached their 2.5 year mark in December 2021. And currently we are doing a review of government's performance for the past 2.5 years to see where they are. And when it comes to the green economy, we've secured funding as government for greener recovery from the COP29 initiative. And we are still trying to figure out what greener projects we want to implement to anchor our economic recovery. During COVID, we had, as a government, initiated a plan called the ERRP, the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan for South Africa, which is our guiding document on how to recover the economy. We are busy at work to implement that plan, and we realized that along the way that there are certain weaknesses or gaps in the plan. And the biggest weakness is that it does not take into account a significant portion of recovering in a greener manner. So we are thinking of a review to incorporate greener projects or programs to lead our recovery. Thank you. Like I mentioned before, the Economic Recovery Plan for South Africa, called ERP, deals with the quick wins that government can implement to turn around the economy in a faster, much cheaper manner. And the main anchor there is development of infrastructure in South Africa. And with the development of infrastructure, we now know that we can look into sustainable infrastructure development. And we are considering those elements of sustainable infrastructure, given that we're now facing climate change issues, and we want to ensure that any infrastructure we put in place or develop in the current term will sustain us longer than beyond the current administration's term. So the president has appointed a climate change commission to look into how South Africa can have an overarching plan for its greener recovery, and how that plan can be programmatized at a lower level to be infiltrated in each department, national department. And also we recently did a budget reprioritization exercise with the National Treasury to find, with fiscal constraints facing every country in the world, and the rising inflationary environment post-COVID due to the Ukraine-Russia war, we are also looking at how to budget better. And the budget reprioritization exercise will also look into promoting greener economy programs for lasting impact. Thank you. The biggest challenge is changing the norm. We are used to our budget process. We are used to our strategic planning processes. We are used to annually tabling and getting Parliament to approve national departments' annual APPs, performance plans, 5-year strategic plans. We are used to having the budget process. The entire process itself follows a specific takes a turn of its own, and we never spoke green. At some point we spoke of sustainability. So now we are realizing that the whole package called government has to be repackaged, has to be reviewed in light of green, in light of a greener recovery, in light of sustainable development, and in the context of the domestic economy, we also have to prioritize the rising crime rate. And poverty due to COVID has gone up, inequality has gone up, um, unemployment has gone up, especially amongst the youth. So the way we did things in the last 20 years no longer seems to be possible. So we have to go back to the drawing board and do zero costing. And in that zero costing, prioritize sustainable infrastructure, prioritize greener programs for communities, for industries. We're now faced with load shedding and water shedding. So our operational environment has definitely changed, and we need to think big and be bold about how we recover this economy in a sustainable manner. Thank you. Um, Starting from scratch, having the benefit of the previous experiences we've had as government. And I say starting from scratch, meaning I'm bundling the norm, everything we know, how we've planned, the story of our government of South Africa, what they will do, how we've monitored those programs, how we have evaluated our successes and failures in the past. So I'm saying we are now unbundling. We're starting from scratch. We have to ditch the normal way of life. COVID showed us that our comfort zones are a risk. And if we are responsible for 54, 55 million odd people residing in the country, we have to think big and think better and be our own critics. So the budget reprioritization exercise with the National Treasury is the first step to say, this is how we've done the budget. Maybe we need to change how that budget is put together, so we can prioritize things that have become urgent in 2022. We are now faced with fourth IR, e-vehicles, cryptocurrencies, um, gender-based violence, rising crime, higher poverty rates, immigration issues. The war in Ukraine, will it pose a food security issue for South Africa? Cheap chicken imports, uh, all sorts of things that are now necessitating a change on how normal business is done. So yes, it's an exciting time, but there is bigger responsibilities for all of us to remember that we are accountable for 54 million odd people in the country, and that responsibility requires us to make decisions that are going to have the biggest impact. How we recover this economy, the choices we make will have an impact for the later generation. And the debt that we accumulate now to deal with today's problems is going to be a lingering effect for the next generation. And also, our positions in terms of global issues on coal. We countries are now importing uh, bag loads of South African high quality coal for their reserves in Europe, as you hint, winter. Um, 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 when do we decarbonize our society? What do we do with the next carbon tax issue when it comes up at National Treasury? We want to localize. In localizing, how do we domestically promote a greener localization effort, and food security? And yes, so those are the exciting yet complex and policy dynamic issues that we're grappling with as government, but we are equal to the task. We are we are debating and making decisions that are going to be fair and are going to protect the future sustainability and growth of the country. Thank you. The first expectation really for me is for us to speak frankly, about a green economy for Africa. A green economy for Africa won't be the same as a green economy for other countries. Africa faces many challenges, uh, poverty, underdevelopment, ailing infrastructure. So, our Green Economy Summit should speak to the uniqueness of our continent, the uniqueness of our challenges, and the uniqueness of the policy responses we need to put in place as a government in Africa to counter those challenges. The other exciting thing that I'm looking forward to is finding out more innovations on about how to green our economy, how to green our recovery, and how that can be done within the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. This is the agreement that we are all have need to leverage to grow the continent. And I expect a chunk of it, majority part of it, to take green sustainability issues into account. And that should be homegrown, and we should start implementing those programs as a matter of agency. Thank you. What will be the message from the presidency? Well, the message from the presidency is simple. First and foremost, South Africa is committed to a better Africa. And with the funds that we have received for climate change to green our economic recovery post-COVID, we want to come up with tangible, practical programs that will showcase how a developing country can move ahead with a greener recovery. And a few years ago, we had already started on this journey of embracing the oceans economy, trying to develop the oceans economy, because we see how much of a contributory factor they can be to our GDP, to our growth, to job creation, and all those things that we aspire to achieve. And thirdly, we are excited as a country, as a government, about the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. We believe that we stand to gain if we position ourselves well within that framework of the Continental Free Trade Agreement. And we fix certain domestic issues, such as our infrastructure to be in place, to be maintained well. And then we'll be able to be a contender, a trade contender within the free trade agreement. And our message is that of peace in Africa, harmony in Africa, and let's grow Africa together. And especially post-COVID, let's be responsible and remember that disruptions and shocks will come at any time, at any place, from any place. We're now facing the Russia-Ukraine war, and that poses a food security issue for our continent. And we are now battling with an inflationary environment. And at the end of the day, it means that households cannot afford basic goods and services. So we want to be part of a global economy that's stable and is growing and supporting its own people. Thank you so much.